Thank you, councillors. I will resume the meeting at agenda item 8.2, the request for approval for building within the covenant area. We have received procedural advice for resuming the meeting at 3:20 p.m.
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Young.
Madam Mayor, I move an amendment to the motion so that the motion reads: Council will consider a request for approval under the covenant in question if it is presented with the particulars of the proposed structures stroke buildings proposed to be developed on lot 1 south of the line marked A-B of the seal plan 169414, and that parties to the covenant will be invited to make representation.
The motion. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Churchill. Councillor Young, do you wish to speak to them?
Yes, briefly. As you've heard, I've been in agony over this issue. Most of it's a technical matter, and this seems to cover all the bases of fairness, giving consents and progressing the matter. I have the written motion that I can hand up.
Mrs. Kerr does actually have it.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. Thank you.
Otherwise, I have nothing else to say.
Thank you. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to add anything?
No.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments in relation to the amended motion? And further, I will put the amended motion. All those in favour? Those against? Councillor Edwards and Councillor Woods are against. Amended motion becomes the substantive motion. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those against? Councillor Edwards and Councillor Woods are against the substantive motion. Thank you, councillors. Agenda item 8.3 is the Southern Regional Land Use Strategy State of Play report. There is a recommendation on page 55. Deputy Mayor, thank you.
I'll move the council notes the state of play report and the beginning of stakeholder consultations on the comprehensive review and update to the STRLUS.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Churchill, Deputy Mayor, do you wish to speak to the motion? Thank you. Councillor Churchill, do you wish to speak?
Just to say that it's great to know that this is underway and being developed, and hopefully there'll be some useful outcomes at the end of this project.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor McLeany?
I just want to make a general comment that I think there's some really good work in here, but I'm also struck by the fact that this document and our structure plans actually form the basis of, and their projections actually form the basis of what Taswater will give us in the way of infrastructure, what the State Grants Commission gives us in the way of money when we start talking about population. And so there's a few things in here that I think are slightly concerning for Glamorgan Green Bay. One is that it was really interesting to look at this. When you look at page 61 of their report or page 155 of the addenda pack, you'll remember that for the Spring Bay area.
So, what numbers? What page?
Sorry, page 155 of the actual collected document, or 61 of the actual report.
Thank you.
You'll remember that Spring Bay, and it might have even been beyond that in the structure plan, is indicated to have a growth of 100 people in the next 20-something years. And we are advised an adoption of the population projection. It's interesting to look in this document, if you look at that page and the table at the bottom, that Glamorgan Spring Bay in the last 10-year period had 663 dwellings created. Presumably there are going to be people in them. And so if you take an average household, that's 1,000 people, right? And if you look at the page before that, it says Glamorgan Spring Bay has had nearly 5% of the total share of approvals in southern Tasmania. That is absolutely kicking above our population rate, right? So so park those for a minute. This document in the doesn't really do anything in the industry part or in the graphics it has around tourism. It does mention it in discussion, but when it comes to population, tragic me, the more I'm discovering that things like migrant worker population are included for like capital cities, people who come from other municipalities to go into work. Well, tourism is exactly the same thing. It's bums on seats in this municipality. So I feel like if we don't start pushing that they need to actually consider population at a more detailed level, and their own documents suggest that the population projections can't be right when you look at approvals and things, then we lose the opportunity and continue to be frustrated by the projections that form the basis of almost every money or investment opportunity we have. So that's my comment. It's particularly apparent in that chapter, but so this consultation process, I'd like them to be challenged to do something at the municipal level.
Through you, Madam Mayor. I agree with what Councillor McQueen said. The Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy has been a thorn in our side relating to some developments on the southern side of Oaklands that I think should have been approved by the Tasmanian Planning Commission by an amendment to the strategy. The strategy is out of date. It does limit the capacity for us as a council to approve things that we think are wise. And if the strategy based on a fallacy, as it appears to be from its own words, from its own material, then it'll adversely affect us. Now, we have to think carefully about how we shall deal with the consultation, because unfortunately, it seems to me, most consultations occur after the decision is made and in fact is just placating the masses with a pile of rubbish. Otherwise, I note the state of play report, mess that it is.
On page 51,
Of the agenda or of the attachments?
no, of the agenda, page 51. Here, Mayor Lee Bray, Brighton. I think it should be Mayor Lee Gray, Brighton. So,
What line?
just the 3 from the bottom.
Oh, he wasn't a donkey.
Lee Gray. He might be asked if he's related to Gordon. It's Lee Gray. So, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I understand that there is some concern. No. Review this time with the consultancy is apparently that a lot of the policy that's in the existing stratas, the Southern Tasmanian Regional Land Use Strategy, is going to be replaced by the Tasmanian policies, which are not finalised yet. Really important to do significant consultation around this, as you identified. There's nothing further. I'll put the motion that we note the Southern Regional Land Use Strategy State of Play report. All those in favour? Those against? Carried unanimously. Agenda item 8.4 is a request for event support for the Freycinet Challenge 2024. There is a recommendation on page 59.
Madam Mayor, can I ask a question about the proposal? Looks quite good. Do we have the cash bearing in mind the new budget?
There is some motion that's not been moved yet. And can I just make the note that there is a spelling error in the last line of the recommendation. Deputy, thank you.
I'll move that council approves the application for the event support in June set for 5 years for the Freycinet Challenge event to be held on the 5th and 6th of 2024. $2,000 cash towards the cost of 3 safety boats for the event and in-kind support as resources permit.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Thank you, councillor Edwards. Deputy Edwards, to speak to the motion.
All right.
Thank you, right. And answer questions in relation to this matter. You said, councillor Young, sorry, you did ask.
I did. In advance, I apologise. Do you want me to repeat it again or
Please,
can we remember it?
If you would, please.
Bearing in mind the new budget and the rate rises and the strictures the shortage of money puts us under, and the fact that the state government won't give us what they ought, do we have the cash?
According to the report, there is an allocation of $27,000 for events and programs in the 24-25 budget. So this, as of the 1st of July, there is in fact $27,000.
Thank you very much.
And if I can just further add to what the Mayor has just said, every report request that comes in, the officer who assesses them is obviously having a look at the running total with the budget as well. So obviously as we get closer to the end of the financial year, that budget reduces. We like to try and get to a point where we actually hit it bang on. We normally get close, but no, we're definitely mindful of budget as we progress through the year.
Madam Mayor, just following on what the General Manager said, does that mean someone that needs support ought to get their application in early?
Hence the number we have today.
Are there any other questions or comments related to it?
Through the Mayor. Considering it's a proprietary limited company that's the grant from council, it's a company for profit. Council considered instead of $2,000, $1,500.
Point of order.
Yes.
Proprietary limited does not mean company for profit. It can do, usually does mostly, but not all the time.
Isn't here it is.
Any other questions or comments? Do you need us to close the vote?
Just briefly look at, it's another one of those key events in our municipality, and I think it's important we show it for support. There's clear economic benefits for our municipality. There's social and health benefits. They're very clear to see. It allows our locals to volunteer and compete in a nationally recognised event. The event's got a track record of 25 years now, so it's provided a lot of benefit to our municipality. I imagine they've had an increase in costs, particularly in the insurance space, I imagine. So I think the support we give them, while it's only a fairly small amount of support, I imagine in the costs that that event actually incurs to put on, I think it's important that we do that and support the local and make sure we're seen to be there.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Unanimously again. Item 8.5 is again another request for event support for the Winter Challenge. It's a recommendation on page 63. Thank you, Councillor Edwards.
I move the council approve the application from Birota Proprietary Limited for the Smitten Marina Winter Challenge 2024 in the form of 2,000 cash contribution and in-kind support to deliver and collect waste bins as resources permit.
Is there a seconder? Deputy Mayor. Thank you. Councillor Edwards, do you wish to comment?
Just for the same reasons as Deputy Mayor Simon said, for the event up north, this is a similar thing down here, and it's been put on lay by over COVID, now coming back. And I think it's another great thing where community groups get involved. And it promotes our area. It's a good thing. We should be supporting.
Thanks. Sorry, Councillor Gregson.
Through the net. So what's the in-kind support? What would that be in dollar terms?
Mr. Forge, is that something that we can quantify or?
It would be, Madam Mayor, it would probably be in the order of $5.
I think the economic benefit to each community from these events is far exceeds council's contribution. Nothing further. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Agenda on 8.6. Yes. Agenda item 8.6 is a request for event support for the VisionO Food and Wine Festival 2024. The Deputy Mayor has declared an interest in this matter and will leave the room. Councillor Woods.
Thank you, Ma'am. Move that council provides the VisionO Food and Wine Festival Association for the VisionO Food and Wine Festival to be held on 16th of November 2024, following event grant funding and support. 1. The provision, delivery and collection of 12 rubbish bins, Redley, and 12 recycling bins, Yellow Lids, and bin liners for the event. And 2. The collection of any recycled bags for disposal from the event location on Monday, 18th of November 2024, and provision of a lifting machine to transport these bins to VisionO Waste Transfer Station for recycling. And 3, provide a 4,500 cash contribution towards the cost of the supplementary wheelie bins and transport skip bin hire and waste collection, cleaning contractor services for waste separation, traffic management implementation, as well as staffing and consumables for the event.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Richard, thank you. Councillor, do you wish to speak to it?
Just to reiterate that it's the same as the previous requests, and also that this is a very, very good and well sought after event on the East Coast.
Mr. Churchill, do you wish to, as a seconder, comment?
Yes, thank you, Nick. Just to state the obvious, this is clearly one of the largest contributions we make to any event across our whole local government area. I guess in some ways it's hard to justify it, but I believe that it's becoming a key event in this whole local government area and extending broadly outside of the local government area right across the state. It's a known event. People attend it, and I think it is worthy of this sort of support, but we need to monitor these sort of things and not make it a foregone conclusion for each year.
Thanks, Mayor. I suppose just along the same lines, I seem to remember last year when we were talking about which festivals and how much, that we were going to develop criteria. Yeah. And I thought that there was going to be a cap of 2,000. Now, I'm not talking about what I think. I'm talking about, I'm sure that
was a discussion.
And so I'm surprised to see this amount in the context of that commitment to doing something with a bit of defensible.
Through you, Madam Mayor, yes, there has been significant discussion, Council, even before your time, Councillor McQueenie, certainly before your time, Councillor Gregson, around how we assess various event applications against each other. There was recognition, I think, really early on that this festival, the VisionO Food and Festival, is what we would call a premier event in our calendar, and Councillor Churchill has sort of alluded to that. In terms of determining the dollar value, the event organisers provided some really useful data, which is in your attachments around what this event brings our municipality, and it's not insignificant. We would really like like it if all event organisers did the same, but it certainly quantifies or shows very clear the benefits outweighing any assistance that council may wish to provide the event organisers in terms of an event. So in terms of your question, Councillor McQueenie, and setting the level, my personal feeling is that, and we can discuss this again at a workshop, is that we should be identifying the 3 or 4 premier events that already exist in our municipality by virtue of their longevity, by virtue of their event size, the people that it draws into our municipality, and recognise that those 3 or 4 would we would look favourably, council would look favourably on them for maximum event support. There's others that are maybe just newly establishing, and sure, once, you know, after a few years and they get established and they become what we would identify as premier event, we can also consider higher value contribution to them. It's very hard to put it's difficult to put a definitive line against these sorts of things because they all so different. The events are all so different. And to say, you know, there's some that may require, for example, more in-kind support than others. We don't quantify that, as Peter, as the director has said. We can approximate what the in-kind support would be, but it certainly varies quite significantly from one event to the other. So my belief is, and with the mayor's support, I'm happy to have further discussion around this at a workshop, is that we should leave ourselves, council should leave itself with the flexibility to recognise that each and every event is very different.
I think that sounds really reasonable, but perhaps something that talks to category, or at the very least, because sometimes it's knowing how to put in an application, not necessarily the worthiness of it. That might win the day if people know exactly what can be most useful, right?
Yeah.
So I just feel like the more we can be transparent about how we decide these things, the better off. So if something is in the premier category, if something's in, you know, energy or whatever, but without that,
Sure.
It's hard when I'm asked in the street to say how come one gets one and the other doesn't. Yeah, so I appreciate absolutely what you're saying. Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Brewster.
We've got another classic case of other people's money, so we have to be very strident on expenditure, especially in economic times. Vishno Festival Committee Incorporated, I assume, is a not-for-profit organisation, and judging over previous years, it's extremely successful, and tickets are in high demand, and some who procrastinate do miss out. Is it still the Vishno Festival Committee's philosophy of offering tickets to Vishno residents first?
Councillor Brewster, I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I can't answer that.
I think you, Madam Mayor, I think we can say that that committee is very proactive, and they would recognise, they do recognise the need to certainly support our local community to attend local events, but also the importance of attracting people from outside our municipal area.
Did they not do something with the footpath ban?
Very good point,
Yeah,
Councillor
that's
Edward. So an example of, very good point, an example of what has been brought back into the committee, just one item by the work of the committee in a co-chair arrangement with council, is construction of a new walkway, shared facility, concrete facility, a very great outcome actually, if you have a look at it on the ground, that this committee put money into through their events.
Two,
And I think it's also important for us to recognise the crucial that Vishno Food, the data they provide, and also the input into structure. Very important. No further questions or comments. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Woodward. Deputy Mayor, the council have unanimously agreed to the recommendation in the agenda. Agenda 8.7 is a community small grant application for VisionO Helping Hands, which is to be auspiced by VisionO Community Development Association. There is a recommendation on page 69. Councillor Woods, thank you.
Thank you. I'll move that council approve the application of community small grant funding of $1,000 to VisionO Helping Hands Fund, auspiced by VisionO Community Development Association Incorporated, for a contribution toward Christmas decorations in VisionO and a Santa Claus meet and greet event in December 20.
There a seconder, please. Councillor Young, thank you. Councillor Ridge, do you wish to speak to the matter?
I will say that given the joy that our community here in Tribunna and Orford pretty much received, or not received, but experienced last year, anything to help bring back Christmas spirit is
Councillor Young?
Councillors who want to say something.
Councillor Young?
In spite of my reservations about meeting Santa Claus, I support.
Any other questions or comments in relation to this matter? Councillor Gregson?
Yes, I agree with Councillor Young that it's wonderful to see Santa Claus back again.
Councillor Gregson and Councillor Young, can I just say that even at my age, I love meeting Santa Claus.
Don't sit on his knees.
Can I please put the motion? All those in favour?
yes, please.
Those against? Agenda item 8.8 is the Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network. There's a community grant application and there is a recommendation on page 73. Councillor McQueen.
I move that council approve the application for community small grant funding of $1,000 to Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network for a contribution towards 12.
Seconded, Councillor Young. Thank you. Councillor McQueen, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Only that the Suicide Prevention Network is just an extraordinary organisation with an incredibly high amount of contribution from a range of volunteers who take the lead on so many issues. So, yeah, it was.
Any other questions or comments?
Just
Councillor Gregson.
yeah, I'd like to agree with Councillor Queen. The Spring Bay Suicide Prevention Network does really contribute to this community. That provides a wonderful service, so the contribute $4,000 by council is very well spent.
Any other questions or comments? And further, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Agenda item 8.9 is a community small grant application for Spring Bay Community Fund, a community food hub. As indicated earlier in the meeting, I have declared an interest in this and I will leave the meeting and request the Deputy Mayor to chair this section.
Item 8.9, community small grant application for Spring Bay Community Food Hub. There is a recommendation on page 76. Councillor Edwards.
The council approved the application for community small grant funding of $1,430.92 to Spring Bay Community Food Hub to support their insurance costs. Thank you.
Yes, no seconder, so Councillor Woods. Thank you. Councillor Edwards, would you like to speak to your motion?
I would, if I could, just to clarify why I've put up another $430.92. This is an organisation which has gathered a lot of support locally. It's run by basically elderly volunteers. Now we have to have public liability and volunteer workers insurance, which both seem ludicrous, but anyway, that's the world we live in. A number of people have made private donations to this already to support them in what they're trying to do. They're getting support, and people who are, probably not in the situation to make too many private donations, but they're supporting it with everything they've got. So I would just think the extra $430.92 would make a big difference to the organisation and to the people who are trying.
Councillor Woods, would you like to?
Yes, I would like to say something about this. That I've been informed that this is born out of the Brighton Food Hub, and the need for, or the amount of people from this postcode that actually go to Brighton Food Hub or a hamper. So that's where it's sort of come from. And I hope council does support this as at $1,432.92.
That's what the insurance bill came to, yeah.
Yeah, given that just with the times we're in and all that sort of stuff, it's important that we do support these startups with insurance.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. And just before I open up to anyone that'd like to speak for or against, I just draw the council's attention to the fact that officers can only put up a maximum amount of $1,000, but councillors are allowed to bring forward up to $50 at their discretion.
Yep.
Would anyone like to speak for or against the motion? Councillor Young?
I support the motion. When there's a need, these difficult times, and they're getting worse, I think council should be doing things like this.
I'd like to make another comment if possible. With this insurance we now have to pay, it would appear to me that it'd be a good idea, if possible, to the various community groups which are now having to fund this, if somehow we could link them together, maybe Eliza Hazel could be involved, and we could then, I think, approach the state government and say, get your hand in your pocket. These are community groups of elderly people who are trying to help the community of the goodness of their heart. And generally it's the people who can least afford it who are out there doing it, and we need help. I just think that's something maybe we could look at moving forward.
Thank you. Councillor McQueen.
Oh, just to support what Councillor Edwards has just said, and I know that there are groups that are concerned about a proliferation when there could be better engagement too.
Yeah.
So
Councillor Gregson.
There's the new initiative. I think it's a wonderful initiative. I was supporting this 100%.
Thank you, Councillor Gregson. On that note, I'd just like to open up, ask our general manager to just make comment. I believe our mayor's been very involved in this process and helped a lot. And so,
Through the chair, deputy mayor, yes, our mayor has been very actively involved in this space. Brighton Food Hub people have been up here to council, to Tribunna, and met with the mayor and myself, and I recall learning about what they have done and started out down there, and Councillor Woods' comment about even people in our community making use of the Brighton facility is great to hear, but it sort of also it strengthens the need for us to be supporting this. But yeah, just recognition that our mayor has played a very strong role in advocating for this.
Yeah. And, so on that note, I'd like to put the motion to the vote, please. All those in favour? So that's unanimous. Thank you. One, you could have the mayor come back in. Mayor, just for your information, councillor Edwards moved the motion that $1,432.92 be allocated. This motion and it passed unanimously.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Thank you, Councillor. On agenda item 9 is there are no notices of motion on agenda 9. There are no petitions. Agenda item 10. No questions on notice at agenda item 11.1 and 11.2. Opportunity for comments and statements from councillors. Councillor Woods, then Councillor Churchill, then Councillor Gregson.
Thank you. I'll just, going back to the previous community small grant application for Spring Bay Community Food Hub. It was mentioned whilst you were out of the room that you have been instrumentally involved in getting this up and about and support for getting this happening. And I speak, I think, on behalf of us. Thank you for doing so. The community will benefit from this.
Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Woods. Councillor Churchill.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a statement or a comment and a question arising out of that, if that's okay. Community members are starting to ask about what's happening on the Solus development up here, Solus/Bayport, and the activity that's been going on up near the highway, clearing quite serious clearing some land up there. In my view, it's actually probably excessive clearing of that land. It seems to be that they've decided that every blade of grass should be removed from the site, which doesn't quite fit in somehow. It seems a bit counterintuitive to the so-called eco cabins that are going there. I'm not quite sure how you equate the way this is being conducted with the what would be perceived to be the type of development that's supposed to be going there. And the second question around the same area is there's an entrance onto the highway just past the entrance to the waste transfer station. And it seems to be, I initially was led to believe this was a temporary entrance that was put there for the construction process. What's being put there now looks like something that's being constructed to go into the next century. And it's a bit grandiose for what was, I thought, a temporary entrance. And I was just wondering if through you we could get comment from the General Manager or the staff members on what might be happening there and what we can expect to be seeing in the future.
General Manager, you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll go to the second part of the question, if I may. Your questions, Councillor Churchill. The first, the entranceway, the access. So we have information on the access that was requested by the developer from the Road Controlling Authority in State Growth. And we were just discussing this quite recently. We're going to seek, when we saw, I guess, further development on that site in terms of the access way. You correctly point out it doesn't appear to be a minor one or a temporary one to service construction. We are going to be seeking clarification of that from the Road Controlling Authority. In regards to the wider vegetation clearing, again, that is not something that council has approved or endorsed. We would need to, I think, in the first instance, take that up with the developer on council's behalf if they so wish. That would be the recommended next step.
Can I just have one quick follow-up question there? We do have authority as council over the clearing of the vegetation on such a project, do we? Is that the case? Or who is the governing controlling
Yeah, I don't believe we have authority, but if Councillor Churchill, but I'll refer to the Director of Planning about that.
There is a station does have requirements, or there are requirements enforced under the planning scheme in regards to removal, but it depends on what type. And also to what the removal is for. So we would need to obviously have a look at the station removal, but there is also federal legislation as well.
Thank you. Just one further quick comment. When I see this site and you realise what's being removed, nearly everything that's being removed there is native vegetation. A lot of the grasses there are poas, and there's a lot of lomandra like there that are totally native, totally appropriate to the area. To have them just stripped back to nothing seems a little bit excessive. Let's hope that at the end of the project, a whole lot of equally important plants are planted back to somehow compensate for the existing growth that's been destroyed at the moment.
But Churchill, I'm sure the staff will take. Councillor Gregson, Councillor Gregson.
Oh, sorry, thank you. I'd just like to acknowledge the Lunch with Mates program on every Wednesday at the Tribunal RSL. It operates between February and November of each year, and it's a collaboration between the Anglican Church in this municipality, the Salvation Army, and the RSL Tribunal also contribute their building. So I'd really like, if everyone's welcome, it's free. So if anyone would like to come along to that group, everyone's welcome, and a donation will be appreciated, but it's not mandatory. Secondly, probably the Salvation Army member, he did request one thing, that there is a half basketball court at the Duck Park at Swansea, and he was saying that it really does attract a lot of youth within that area, and he said the addition of lights would be really good to keep the youth really concentrated in that area so they don't wander away. So I'm just wondering whether at a particular time, if council would consider placing lights on that half basketball court.
I've already spoke to Dr. Porch about this, and it's already in the.
Good thing. And the last one is just wanted to know, how is the Swanwick Community Garden going? What's the progress on that?
Sorry, this one.
Swanwick Community Garden. It was in the last agenda.
Mr. Porch, do you have any update on this one?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no update, only that we have advised them to proceed and expect.
Councillor Edwards?
And 2 quick points. I personally think that the solid site looks a hell of a lot better. But that's my opinion. And secondly, I would like to thank the council and all the councillors. As you know, my son was involved in a bad injury, and the support I've had from every councillor and council staff has been outstanding, and I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Councillor Edwards, and can I say on behalf of council, we wish your son well for the future.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, councillors? Right, on that basis, agenda item 12 is for closure, so I shall declare this meeting of the Morgan Fredo Council the 23rd of July 2024 closed at 4:03 p.m. Thank you.